Hello, this is Connie Belden, and in this video, we're going to learn how to calculate plant-wide predetermined overhead rate and then apply overhead costs to a particular job. Let's look at similar to exercise 2-1 first. So I like to think of it as a two-step process. Before you can apply those overhead costs, step one, you have to get that predetermined overhead rate. In this problem, we will use plant-wide, meaning that we will just use one activity to apply overhead. That might be machine hours, that might be direct labor cost, that might be direct labor hours. In this case, we are going to use direct labor hours. Let's take a look at our information for similar to exercise 2-1, where we're going to do what I like to call step one of the process and get that plant-wide predetermined overhead rate. Now, highlighted in yellow, what are the estimated numbers? 10,000 direct labor hours will be required for the estimated level of production. The estimated fixed manufacturing overhead for the year is 80,000. The estimated variable manufacturing overhead is $1 per direct labor hour. Now, it also gives us that the actual manufacturing overhead for the cost for the year is 98,900, and actual total direct labor hours was 12,000 hours. We don't need any of those actual numbers in what I call step one in getting the plant-wide predetermined overhead rate. So the first thing you have to do is determine the total overhead cost, the estimated total overhead cost. It gives us estimated fixed is 80,000 and estimated variable is $1 per direct labor hour. So I can calculate total cost by taking the fixed manufacturing overhead and adding it to the variable manufacturing overhead. So I wrote out the equation, assume Y is total cost. So Y equals 80,000, the estimated fixed manufacturing overhead, plus $1 times direct labor hours. And in this case, it's $1 estimated per direct labor hour times 10,000 estimated direct labor hours. So as we complete it out, Y equals 80,000. Okay, and the estimated variable cost when you multiply it out would be 10,000. Y equals $90,000. Okay, so that would be my total estimated overhead cost. Now I want to get that per direct labor hour. That's going to be my application rate. So I will take that 90,000 that I just came up with, the estimated overhead, and divide it by estimated direct labor hours, which is 10,000. That comes up to an even $9. That $9 would be per direct labor hour, and that is my predetermined overhead rate. Okay, so I've done step one. I've gotten my overhead rate. Notice that I didn't use the 98,900 actual overhead, and I didn't use the actual 12,000 hours. We'll go on to similar to exercise 2-2, where we'll do step two and apply the cost. So using the same data, we are now going to apply overhead cost. So the formula we want to use is your actual direct labor hours, which were given at 12,000, times the predetermined overhead rate, which we came up with in step one, of $9. Okay, so my actual direct labor hours was 12,000 direct labor hours times $9. And therefore, I come up with 108,000 even as my overhead applied. So that's how you would determine how much overhead would go to each job. Because there are three product costs. There are direct materials, direct labor, and manufacturing overhead. Now, typically it's hard to keep track of how much actual manufacturing overhead is going into each job or unit. So therefore, that's why we want to do what we did in exercise 2.1 and 2.2. We want to come up with an application rate, and then we want to apply it. Now, again, remember there are 3 product costs: materials, labor, and for overhead, then we are going to use overhead applied. Okay, let's go on to another exercise that kind of wraps it together. Let's assume they already did what we did in exercise 2.1 and came up with a plant-wide predetermined overhead rate of $16, and that the direct labor rate is $20 per hour. Now, for job 22, it gave us the direct material cost is $250. The direct labor cost is $120. So I'm going to bring that down to here. I'll put $250 and $120. So in order to finish, because remember there are 3 parts of the product cost: materials, labor, and overhead, I need to determine my manufacturing overhead applied. Now I know it's $16 an hour, but like I did up here, I want to take it times, I am using direct labor hours again for this particular problem as well, so I want to take it times actual direct labor hours. Now you might notice that wasn't given to me. I'm given a rate of $20 per hour, but I'm not given the actual direct labor hours. So I am going to have to calculate that out. Okay, I can do that. And so notice I said here first, determine the number of direct labor hours for job 22. I can do that by taking my direct labor cost, which was given at $120, and divide that by, it is $20 per hour. So if I divide that out, that means there were 6 direct labor hours for job 22. Okay, so that's how I can come up with the direct labor hours. So I did have to take a step back there. Okay, so I'm going to do the same thing I did in exercise 2. I'm going to take the predetermined overhead rate, which in this exercise was given at 16, times the actual direct labor hours. And for job 22, I calculated out it was 6 direct labor hours. So 16 times 6, overhead applied is $96. So if I add the materials, labor, and overhead, total cost of job 22 is $466. That's for all units that were produced in job 22. Well, what if job 22 consisted of 20 units? What would be the cost of manufacturing overhead per unit, or the total cost per unit in this case? So what I want to do is I'm going to take the total cost of $466 for job 22 and divide it by, I got 20 units, and therefore it comes out to $23.30 as the cost per unit. Thank you very much.